So, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our second episode of Bytes and Banter hosted by Women in Tech Africa. We're very happy to have Nike Anani with us today, all the way from Lagos, right?
Yes,
Yes,
Lagos, Nigeria.
great. She's joining us from Lagos today, and we're very happy to have her. So, just to say a few words for people who don't know anything about Women in Tech Africa. This is an organization, it's a nonprofit organization that was founded by Ethel Kofi with the intention of actually bringing women, entrepreneurial women into the tech world, trying to open up opportunities to get girls also to go into STEM and basically to help Africa's agenda in the technology space. So, well, I mean, Nike, you have a very, very interesting profile. I'm actually quite awed by what you do. You call yourself a next gen. You work with next generation families in the family business space. You help them develop their business. You also help them with their succession planning, and you set up the young generation to be able to take over the helms of power and to help them bring in their leadership skills to be able to bring the companies to the next level. But you're also a CEO of your own company. You're a chartered accountant. You're a mother of two kids. You actually, I think you wrote a book, right? So you have all these things going on for you. Do you want to take us a little bit along your journey? How you got where you are, and let's hear.
Yeah, thank you firstly for having me on here. It's an honor. My journey is an interesting one. I grew up in Nigeria until I was 9, and from 9 relocated to the UK. So my parents started off our first family business when I was a baby. And so the family business has been in the background all my life, right? And so at age 9, we moved to the UK, went to university there, and I worked at Deloitte in London in Corporate Tax International. And I loved the company. I loved my peers. I just was incredibly bored. So it was there that I qualified as a chartered accountant. And as soon as I qualified, I thought, this is not my life purpose. This is not what I'm passionate about. What is it that I'm passionate about? And I thought to take a gap year. The idea was to come to Nigeria for a few months, shadow my father, meet a few of his friends, find new mentors, discover where my passions lay, go traveling for the rest of the year, do my MBA, and then thereafter I would have found myself and found a job in the UK. Mm-hmm. I got to Nigeria 3 months in. I was like, I'm not leaving. I loved it. I loved the entrepreneurial culture. I loved working with my father, and I met my husband. And so that was September 2011 when I moved back to Nigeria. And so I started shadowing my father, like I mentioned, in our family businesses. It started off as this informal shadowing, which then morphed into a formal appointment as an executive in the family businesses. And I soon discovered that there was need for us to manage the family's investments in a more efficient way. Okay. So I set up the family's office, the family investment office, and was running that. But along that journey as the next gen, second generation family member in the family business, I found it a very lonely one because there was nobody I knew that was working in family businesses in Nigeria. There was no community. And a number of the struggles I had, I thought were unique to me, but apparently were a lot of family businesses, a lot of next gens all around the world would identify with the struggles I was having. And so I started reading up on the sector, attending trainings internationally, and all that. But there was always, how does this fit in the African context, right? And so I started doing a lot of research on the space, found out that over 90% of businesses in Nigeria are family businesses. 90%. Only 90% of indigenous businesses are family businesses. Only 2% survive beyond generation 1. So 98% die when the founders die. And that came to life for me when a friend of mine, her father died. And it was literally seeing it, and living it through her, when watching her going through grief and anxiety, because as soon as he died, practically the business just collapsed. And the stereotypical story that we all know a version of, which is just completely heartbreaking. And so it was then that I decided that enough is enough. Let's do something about this. Next generation is actually critical to the sustainability of the family firm. So last year, January, I started up my practice and working with other NextGens in, like you said, helping them with leadership, helping them with finding their purpose, helping them in collaborating with their parents and building sustainable enterprises. And along the journey, met a colleague of mine doing similar work in Zimbabwe that shared a similar passion for this space. And we decided to co-found a non-profit association family businesses across the continent. So we've been doing that since February, actually, was when AFF, African Family Firms, was we co-founded in creating that. So yes, that's my journey. I don't know if there's anything you want to know. Anything else you want to know?
When you say your family business, what sort of business do you do?
So the first family business is today a construction company.
Okay.
We also have real estate, and then we have the family office where we invest in a range of sectors. So we don't take on the management responsibility, but we just invest and we provide strategic direction and things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Isn't it stressful to work in Nigeria?
I actually found it more stressful in the UK.
Oh, okay.
So there are certain things about Nigeria that is stressful, right? The traffic, and all that. But there's many things that make it so much easier. The domestic help. And for me, in this season of my life, I know that I wouldn't be able to juggle all these balls if I was in the UK. It just wouldn't be possible, because I wouldn't be able to afford the amount of support I have, whether it's nannies, cooks, drivers, or my mom just round the corner to take grandchildren and things like that. So for me, Nigeria is the most exciting place I could be at this stage of my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you have a blog that you have on your webpage. So if you want to know more about Nika, also she has a webpage. It's called NikeAnani.com, right? On your webpage, you write a number of blogs about your views on the family business, the cultural aspect, and a lot more. And one of them, you had mentioned that approximately 145,000 high net worth individuals are in Africa. And these people together have a combined wealth holding of about $800 billion. But what you find out is, although the number is expected to grow, you still see many wealthy African families struggle to transfer their businesses and their wealth to the next generation. Why is this so? What is the problems, especially, that they face?
Unfortunately, we don't really have data to cite, and for me to give you scientific reasons why this is so, why we only see this 2% that survive beyond generation one. But based on my experience, I can give some explanations based on my own observations, right? What we tend to see is a weak foundation in family businesses where the business is centered around the founder, and there's tends to be little thought put into professionalizing. So we'll see things like the owner of the business, the founder of the business signing every single check, or being able to make decisions unilaterally, and where HR is just kind of to fulfill all righteousness, as opposed to being a strategic function to look at how to maximize productivity and optimize, optimize productivity from the staff. And people are the foundation of any business. When we have that kind of a setup, what happens is the business becomes extremely dependent on the founder's judgment and decision making. So it leaves very little room for a culture of planning. And as we're taking every day as it comes, we don't really think about the future. There was actually a study by PwC Nigeria recently that said whilst 77% of Nigerian family businesses that they surveyed say that they want a multi-generational business, only 10% of them actually have succession plans in place.
Okay.
Then culturally, we tend to have, whilst Nigeria is very diverse, right? We have a lot of ethnic groups and things. Across most cultures, we tend to have age dominance and male dominance, right? And this means that young people feel like they don't have a voice. And it prevents a collaborative culture between first gen and second gen. And in my view, the critical success factors of business families are what I term the 3 C's: collaboration, communication, and clarity. Clarity on where we're going, who we are, and what we stand for. And so where we have this culture where young people are not to have a voice, it really does hinder collaboration, right? And so I think that's one of the key reasons. Lastly, we don't like to talk about death.
It's true. And it's very fatalistic. If you,
it's like, who is this witch? Why is she talking about death? Like, are you trying to bring it upon yourself? And if we don't acknowledge it, how can we plan for it? So in family businesses, succession plans take on a new dimension that in a non-family business, they don't, because the business is a lot more complex. We have to think about the leadership of the business, the leadership of the family, and the ownership of the business and assets. So we must acknowledge the founder's mortality. Instead, what typically happens is that, it just ends up being this elephant in the room that we don't really talk about. Where we really don't know what the founder wants. And then, when he or she dies, we find out in the will, but we were never prepared for it. Because leadership takes practice and grooming and nurturing, particularly in a family business context. So another dimension to that is, think about it, the founder and his or her spouse pass away. Typically, they pass on the business, the ownership that leads to the children. So in the past, we had one leader, and now we're moving on to siblings partnership, where siblings were not used to working together. Okay. And so where they've not practiced that, it usually ends up in a lot of conflict. So I think those are the reasons why we're not seeing as much success as we could be seeing compared to our global peers. So the statistic globally is 1 in 3 will move past generation 1 to generation 2, whereas we are at 2%. So we are significantly behind our peers.
Okay, so we would say the cultural aspect of actually the family business in Nigeria, let's just say, is a bit more. It's a bit more interesting, especially because of the background that you bring, as you said, with with not acknowledging that somebody's actually going to die and having some sort of a plan in place, what needs to be transferred, what needs to be done. So in this respect, also, I just think that view and looking at the digital divide now. So now you have the old generation and you have the newer generation that is born into this, well, what do we call them? Digital natives today. What sort of situations do you have there? I mean, is there a way that the older generation can actually harness the power of technology and use it? Or is it a case whereby the young people are trying to get the older people to get into the technology? What are you seeing in that space at the moment?
Well, the need to digitize, innovate, and implement technology, in my view, was urgent before COVID.
Okay.
And now in this hour, it's absolutely mission critical, right, for family businesses. And yes, NextGens like myself, or the digital natives, NextGens typically are millennials, and we have this sixth sense for technology. But what the beauty of this crisis is that it has been our change agent, right? A lot of the time prior to the crisis, NextGens were championing the cause of technology, digitizing, and almost reverse mentoring where they were allowed to, at best. At worst, it was resisted and just, typically world over, founders and NextGens see the world through different prisms and lenses. Okay. Founders tend to look back they look to the past.
Mm.
You know, they emphasize history. This is how we've been doing things. These are our values. This is where we came from, and legacy. Whilst next gens move to the future, right? So there's always been that divide in the way we see things. But like I said, the beauty of COVID is that we don't have to make a case now for the need for management systems, for digitizing, for innovating, because it's been pushed on us, right? It's what we need to thrive. And now in this age, we're seeing baby boomers using Zoom the way they used to, you know, use WhatsApp. You know, I find that baby boomers are the ones that are the greatest culprits of WhatsApp groups and compared to our generation. And now, all the time, I receive requests for meetings from baby boomers on Zoom. So I think we're in a very exciting hour. Actually, we'll see that next gens are more empowered in this season.
Hi. Okay. Sorry. There was a bit of a lapse there because I just lost you briefly.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now
where did you?
No, you were just saying that, but you had just finished saying that you're getting requests from baby boomers now to actually connect, and this is a pretty big opportunity now for digitalization in family businesses.
Yeah, I said I think this puts next gens in a great position where they're actually empowered as change agents, because a lot of the case has been made, right, through COVID. In order to survive, you must have digital, you must be online, you must have technology, you must have management systems and things like that. We can't work in this analog world. So I think it's a very exciting season for next gens.
Okay. That makes sense. There was this quote by Ernst & Young, said, "Family businesses are the natural home of innovators because of the entrepreneurial culture and responsive to change." True?
Yes and no. So family businesses are nimble, more flexible and agile because they're able to make quick decisions. But you and I know that if you're driving super fast in the wrong direction, that's disastrous, right? So direction is just as important as speed. So we shouldn't automatically dance about that. I think that statement is largely dependent on the disposition and the outlook of the founder.
Okay.
So first generation family businesses often have, like I said, this founder dominance where the founder makes a lot of decisions, and we don't typically see a culture of accountability and decision making, and we have heavy reliance on the founder's judgment. And so where that judgment is off and we don't have checks and balances, we won't necessarily see innovation, but we actually may see resistance to change.
Okay.
Interestingly, in the world of psychology, we see that a lot of founders resist change because it often threatens their importance in the family business. It's really counterintuitive because you would think that they want the family business to thrive, but actually they have an emotional relationship with the business. And we know that in the world of emotions, logic does not necessarily reign, right? But that being said, I do think that founders do tend to have very strong entrepreneurial leanings. Most of them are able to make money in the wilderness, you know, but are they able to optimize it? Are they able to sustain it at lowest cost, fastest speed, and best quality? Is now another question where, you know, to do that, we have to make sure that the culture of the organization allows for collaboration. It allows for testing of ideas. It doesn't shame failure. It allows for precise execution and accountability. In absence of all those, we won't see innovation.
Okay. All those things that you're fighting with today, are they on your to-do list, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, this is not an Africa-centric phenomenon, this particular conversation we're having about resistance to change. It's really about into that organizational psychology. And this is really where the importance of NextGens come in, because they get it. Like I said, founders tend to look back.
Yeah.
NextGens tend to look forward. So the perspectives are very different. So NextGens have to champion their causes in ways that do not disrupt through the ego of the founder, where he or she feels threatened.
Okay.
Like I said, psychologically, they feel like the business is their baby.
Yeah. As you said, it's true. I mean, change anywhere is usually first met with resistance, because you're comfortable in the area that you've known it all this while. So I mean, why change a running machine, right? But sometimes I guess change is necessary to be able to open up newer opportunities and take on new things. I mean, you never know, right? You and your co-founder, her name is Tsitsi, right?
Yeah.
Yes. You guys had a 21-day conference in April, whereby you focused on family businesses, especially during the COVID-19 period, to sort of help them cope with different things, to give them information, and to basically assist. So can you tell us a little about that and how it went, and what your learnings from this 21-day event was, apart from the fact that you were tired?
So the world saw 21 days. The reality was 31 days, because
31.
because we came up with the idea on the 27th of March and went live on the 6th of April. So from the 27th of March, we were planning the conference whilst executing the conference, which is something I will never, ever advise anyone to do. But it went phenomenal. We had 82 sessions with 76 speakers from over 20 countries, and they ranged from family business experts, leadership, organizational psychologists, emotional wellness experts, to wealth planning, innovation, tech people like yourself. You did a session as well. And what it really, the key threads that kept on coming through the entire 21 days was, number one, family businesses, the direction of the family business and the projection of the family business is largely dependent on the wellness of the leaders. So it is nothing is automatic that you're in this industry or you're in this sector or you're in this geographic region that is doom and gloom, because ultimately the decisions you make as a family business really lie upon your ability to spot opportunities. And you can only spot opportunities when you tend to your emotional wellness. You're not in a place of perpetual angst and anxiety. Another point that kept on coming up is the importance of the family unit. And that's actually the family units, looking at various studies from previous crises, and various family businesses that have endured beyond 100 years. What they find is it's families that prioritize and cultivate strong families, as opposed to just focusing on the family business. So there was a study which cited that for family businesses that failed to transition from generation one beyond, it was a global study. 70% of that was explained by poor communication within the family. So families, particularly in the hour of crises, they need to communicate. And then, of course, we've had a little bit of a conversation about that rising generation, the next generation, and how important they are in steering the family businesses forward. And, of course, technology. Then we had conversations on opportunities to invest. Should you have spare liquidity in this season? What would our future world look like? What would the future opportunities look like? And how can we, not miss out from the opportunities? How can we protect our wealth and things like that? I can't summarize 82 sessions, but the content is still available on our website.
Are you still digesting?
I still go back and watch like some sessions from time to time, because it's proved extremely useful for me, both as a business owner, as a next gen, and also as a practitioner. So the content is still on our website, www.africanfamilyfirms.org. You just click on the headshots and it will take you to
Okay.
YouTube videos to watch. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So now that you've done all of that, you personally, how have
Mm.
you how have you weathered the COVID-19 pandemic, you and your family? Has it disrupted your business? I mean, pretty much everybody's in the same situation in which you are, also looking for different opportunities. How have you felt during this time? Has it been a time of sadness or a time of regenerating yourself? Can you tell us a little bit about your experience right now?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Initially, I took each day as it came, and I felt a different emotion every day. I went through the 5 stages of grief, and I finally got to acceptance probably during the 21-day conference. And for me, how I handled this whole crisis was boundaries. I was extremely militant about boundaries, what I allowed to meditate on. Um, at the initial stages, I was just watching CNN, consuming, looking at those numbers going up and up and up and up and up and up. And then I'd be wondering why I'd wake up feeling like this heaviness, this depressive feeling. And the day I decided to switch off that TV and just decide to pour myself into what does my market need at this hour? How can I best support them at this hour? That was the day my joy returned. So for me, it's just being a support to others really gives me strength, both in my professional life and also in my personal life. Of course, our businesses have been impacted. I mean, like I said, construction. So for 4 weeks or even longer, I think for 6 weeks, all our sites were shut down. So cash flow was a challenge. We had overheads to meet and things like that. But amidst all that, there's opportunity. I actually believe it's been a season of new beginnings, and I've spotted a number of new opportunities, new entrepreneurial ventures that I'm pursuing. All in all, I think for me, my priority has just been tending to my emotional and mental health.
Okay.
If I tend to my emotional and mental health, tend to Nika, then I'm able to give as a mother, as a wife, as an entrepreneur, as an advisor. In absence of that, I can't function. So, yeah, being extremely self-compassionate, I think, is really important in this season. Being patient with ourselves as well. A lot of the time, we put expectations on ourselves that are not realistic. It is a crisis. It's not. I saw a quote somewhere that said, we're not working from home, we're not homeschooling, we're we're working through a pandemic, which is so true, right? It's a crisis. So
Yeah.
we're all going through a lot emotionally and we have to process it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's like every day is sort of like a new day on, you hear, I think you probably count how many times you hear the new normal. What is
Oh,
the
yeah.
new normal for you? Do you walk around your house to do exercise, or how do you keep yourself fit in some way? How do you eat? Are these things that you also take care about?
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially at the initial stages where it was extremely stressful. I found that I had to run every day just to release. I've always been a runner. That's my me only time where I just, I listen to music. I just empty my thoughts. And so I've increased my exercise and food wise as well. Try not to eat anything that looks like it's from a chemistry lab. When you look at the ingredients, it's like, I can't even pronounce this. I'm sure my body is going to reject this. I shouldn't eat this. Trying to eat nutritious food, it does really help with mood regulation and things like that. And really just spending time with family and loved ones.
Okay.
For the longest time, initially it was like we were all longing for our former lives, because we felt like we were imprisoned. But I find myself more and more as the days go by, like this is absolutely precious. How now I spend all day long with my 2.5-year-old and my 5-year-old and my husband. These are moments that we will never get back.
Mm.
And we don't know what the new normal will be.
Yeah.
We don't know what the future will look like, but we can be present in the moment and make the most of now, rather than just always longing for what we think is not what we don't even know, and what we think is normalcy. So yeah.
Oh, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, also your feelings. I'd like to open it up for our audience. Do you have any questions for Nike? Just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask.
Hi, Nike.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Hi.
I can hear you, yeah.
Very, very interesting work that you do, and very necessary. I was wondering if there's, apart from anything that is being done on educating people. So I think a lot of people, it's actually about awareness and education, about, even thinking about generational wealth that translates to other to further generations. And so I looking at it, it seems like maybe a lot of people you're targeting are kind of at the upper echelon, which already also don't have the basis. But I think there might be people, a lot of the businesses, for instance, in Nigeria, from people who might be maybe less educated, who don't even have those type of thoughts. So is there anything you're doing around that area and getting to those type of maybe smaller businesses, or are you more targeted towards the larger businesses in the spectrum?
That's an excellent question. We're not targeted towards any particular size, but we're targeted to particular maturity. So we wouldn't, our audience is not startups, for instance, right? Startups is a particular leaning. So we just champion the continuity and sustainability of family firms, whether they're SMEs or whether they're large institutionals. We had several calls today on this same topic, on the need for awareness. So as African family firms, we're working with a number of associations. The best way to make an impact in the space is, rather than going, from trying to impact on one person, is to impact on the masses through associations. So we're looking to build partnerships with like institutes of directors, chambers of commerces and things like that. And also we're building a relationship with, there's research institutions in South Africa, family business centers. So yes, it's a lot of, it's a huge sector with a lot of work to be done. But through the nonprofit, through the association, we definitely think we'll be able to make a greater stamp than when myself and Sissy were working as individual consultants. Coming together, we're able to go much further. There's also a need for advocacy. And that's the part that we're extremely passionate about. But to get to the point of advocacy and pushing for structural changes, we need data. So the research is a key element of what we need to do. So through the conference, lots of people have just been coming through the cracks. A lot of African family business researchers, both outside in diaspora and also on the continent. So we're positive that over time we will be able to make a greater impact on the space.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions? Just unmute yourself and then you can talk.
So if no one else has another question, I have a second question.
Go ahead.
You did mention the diaspora. Do you see any role? So there's been a lot of talk in the last couple of weeks, especially when you look at, again, Nigeria, because I'm Nigerian, about the role of the diaspora, the amount of remittances from the diaspora back home and all of that. Do you see any role or any opportunities for people who are in diaspora who do, because of various reasons, have had to go or are in the diaspora, but who are keen to help pull family legacies beyond one generation? Is there any steer, any advice, or any insights you've had since you've been doing this? Obviously, you are based in Lagos now, which makes it a little bit easier. But for people who are in diaspora who do want to, still do the same thing, kind of play their own part, any tips or any insights?
Yeah, very interesting, because incidentally, Sissy and I authored a paper last week on the role of the diaspora in championing the sustainability of family firms on the continent. Diaspora are critical for various reasons. Firstly, the financial flows onto the continent from diaspora is about $340 billion as at 2018. Greater than official aid, greater than foreign direct investment, and greater than portfolio investment. So diaspora flows are a huge source of FX revenue for the continent and investment. Diaspora are critical because of the skills as well. There was a study by AFDB that said that, typically we talk about people that move to the diaspora, it causes a brain drain. Mm-hmm. Their conclusion was actually that it has a positive impact on the continent, and the higher the levels of skills of those that leave, the greater impact that has on the continent because of the skills transfers. So we see scope for collaboration with those in the diaspora coming into the family businesses by way of being like non-executive directors and providing their exposure. They've been exposed to best practice, they've been exposed to world-class standards, trying to bring that on board in family businesses so that family businesses can attract institutional sustainable capital. A lot of family businesses on the continent are reliant on bank loans from friends and family, equity from friends and family that will not enable them to scale sustainably. In order for them to move into new frontiers, expand internationally and things like that, they need to raise institutional capital. To raise institutional capital, they need their strategic outlook needs to be more robust. Their corporate governance needs to be stronger. And so, yeah, we see a huge role of the diaspora also looking at things like a diaspora fund. If diasporans are inclined already to bringing money onto the continent through, sister, there's this company, I'll transfer you dollars, you wire naira to this company, and we don't know what happens with that money, we don't know what happens with that company. Why not go through a reputable, formalized, institutionalized process whereby we've vetted the investee company and we know that they abide by best practice and we can guarantee a minimum dollarized return, for instance. So yeah, no, I'm glad about your question. Diaspora have a huge, huge role to play in the development of this space.
Thanks. Anybody else have any questions?
Hi, Nike. Hi, Ola.
Hey, Ansela.
Hey. Yeah, I really enjoyed the session, really eye-opening. So my question is, you mentioned you had a conference earlier this year. So aside from the conference, how do you reach out to family-owned businesses is that all year round you have more conferences to educate them? How do you really reach out to them or to these businesses to really see the change you're fighting to see?
Okay, so our activities are centered around peer-to-peer networking. So we do this through establishing chapters in each country across the continent, so 54 chapters. We're targeting 20 members per chapter. And obviously because of the situation we find ourselves in, these will be online virtual communities through which we will provide training and education, coaching and mentoring and things like that. So we have a program of events. Through the relationships we've built through FP21, we're building up accredited advisors that family businesses can engage on a one-on-one basis should they need to, or also will come into the chapter meetings and speak on a topic that would be of need at that point in time. So through the chapter model is how we intend on making an impact. Like I said, each chapter will have 20 people. The goal is at least one chapter in every country, but we intend on expanding beyond that and leveraging this beauty that is technology. Actually has put us in a very exciting place compared to if we were trying to do this through offline means. We can scale a lot more sustainably in this way.
So that means at this moment, well, it means basically less travel for you, right?
Great. Yes. Yes. I mean, the irony is, like I said, AFF was birthed in February. And so we had planned a whole bunch of offline events, networking events. Our first event was supposed to be yesterday, actually, in conjunction with IE Business School. So we have a number of partners that we are working with. IE Business School is one, Nourishing Africa is another, then agribusiness movement. Institute of Directors Nigeria, we're in conversations with building a partnership with, and several other organizations, chambers of commerces and industry groups and things like that. So we were very heavily focused on offline and then COVID. And we had to, FP21 was not part of the plan. It was something that on the 27th of March, we were inspired to do. And in God's ways, actually worked out perfectly. So we, what we had planned was on an annual conference for next year for the entire continent, and then regional conferences in Western, Northern, Eastern, and Southern Africa for next year was our plans for conferences. We were going to concentrate this year on education and training and building that community and networking.
Well, I guess it just means that you have more time to sort of reflect. You don't have to get into a plane. You don't, that whole stress of, getting around, and well, you're saving the planet a little bit also. So
exactly.
Yes. So if anybody doesn't have any more questions, I'll wait for a brief yes or no. If no, then I would like to say a very big thank you for Nick to be being our guest, our second guest on this Bytes and Banter. We enjoyed having you. It was very informative, the information that you have given us, especially this view of what family businesses are, how they survive, and what drives them, more or less. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Evening, and thank you everybody who was able to join this session. Wish you a very pleasant evening. Take care and God bless.
Take care.
Bye.